Hey all, we're going to go through Tableau today. Just a very quick introduction tutorial for absolute beginners. I've got quite a bit of experience with Power BI, and now I'm just getting to grips with Tableau. It is very easy to move the skill set across. You just got to get used to the different way things are done. So I've got here open my Tableau Desktop Public Edition. I've got my data, which is a supermarket file. Um, my data set is a CSV file, and one of the first things I want to do is load and explore this data. So Tableau needs to connect to the data source before we can actually visualize anything. So let's get that done. Text file, supermarkets, and cool, and it's open, takes us straight to the data source, and what we can see here is our data. We can check all the columns are there, all the fields are there, all the relevant information that we need. We've got the fields information on this side. Um, this is the data, and this is what we're going to use now for our visualization. So if we go to worksheet, what you'll see at the bottom here, you've got the options. So you've got new worksheet option, new dashboard, and new story. But because we're working on worksheet, let's go to sheet 1. What I will say is the way it works in Power BI, you can have multiple visualizations on one page. In Tableau, it works slightly differently. It's one visualization per worksheet, and then what you do is you create a dashboard where you can bring it all together. So if we look at the data pane on the left hand side here, we have, if you see it, you'll see it split here. You can see this line splits the top and the bottom. Now you might be wondering what this is. So the top part, which is known as the blue pills, as you can see, it's shaped like a pill. It's colored in blue, is dimensions. Now dimensions are categorical data. So these are fields that describe things. So you can have region, store type, opening hours, and these are typically used for grouping and filtering rather than calculations. Now, if we look at the bottom here, these are these green pills. These are called measures, and these are for numerical data. These fields contain numbers that can be aggregated, such as summed, averaged, min, max, and etc. And examples of these include monthly revenue, number of transactions, and customer satisfaction score. Now, why are these separated? So dimensions help us categorize data while measures are used for calculations. Now, this separation helps Tableau automatically suggest relevant visualizations. And also if a field is miscalculated, misclassified, such as opening year might be as a measure, you can just simply drag it to dimensions manually. So just as a quick recap, blue pills are categorical, used for grouping, filtering, and green pills is numerical, so used for calculations, aggregations, and that kind of stuff. Okay, now we're going to preview the data. So we're going to quickly go back to the data source, which is on the bottom left here again. And we're just going to look, open data, are the dates correct? Are the numbers correct? Are the categorical fields in dimension sections, do we need to move anything across? Now doing this before we visualize ensures that the data type is correct, and it helps identify possible errors or misclassified fields. Something that's really important, and you can, if you look above here, it'll show which one's which, and you can move these if need be. So you've got here the blues and you've got the greens. Right, let's go back to our worksheet. We're going to create a new worksheet, which we've already created. And let's start with, so yeah, just before I move on. So data source tab is only for previewing and preparing the data, and the worksheet where we are now is for actually creating the charts and graphs, the visualizations. Okay, dokie, let's move on now. Let's create a bar chart. What can we call this? Let's rename this Monthly revenue, oh, if I could spell it'd be great, by supermarket chain. Cool. Let's drag chain. Where's chain? Chain from here. We're going to drag this into columns. Brilliant. So you might ask, why is chain going to columns? Now the column shelf defines categories along the x-axis. So since chain represents different supermarket brands, we want the chain to have its own separate column in the chart. You can also compare things side by side if you want to. That's a possibility. Right, let's now drag monthly revenue to rows. Right, cool. And since revenue is a numerical measure, we want Tableau to plot its value on the y-axis. And let's move on. We now want to change aggregation from sum. We want to change that to average. And one of the reasons we want to use average in this case instead of sum is sum would allow all store revenues, would add all the store revenues together, but we want to compare the typical revenue per store, not the total across all the stores, and use an average lets us see how much revenue an average store in each chain generates. So what we do is to change that, we tap down on here and we go from measure and we click it to average, and you can see it's changed now. Another thing we want to do is, even though it's selected it automatically, if we've come into the marks section on the left, we want to go from automatic and we want to click bar. And bar charts are best for comparing categories. The length of each bar makes it easy to see the differences in revenue. Another chart such as line or bar charts probably wouldn't make sense for this type of comparison. Next thing we want to do is we want these in descending order. So we want to go from the highest supermarket to peer first, and then to the lowest. So let's click on the arrow here, and there we go. Sorting makes it easy to see which supermarket has the highest, lowest revenue. Without sorting it, as you saw earlier, the bars appear randomly, making it a bit harder to analyze. So if you just want to go back here, so if you were analyzing this now, your eyes will be all over. Whereas if you sort the data, you can do it however you prefer. You can have your ascending, descending. It's much easier to read. Now, how can we format the chart for better readability, right? So we've already renamed the chart, so that's perfect. So if someone's reading this, they will understand. So now if we click on, right click on this, if we choose format, and if you see here, another page opens up, and if we click on numbers, change this to currency, it's already selected local. You could also do custom, and you can just select from here as well, but if you select it's already picking. You can pick another one if you want to. And cool, and you can see now it's set in a currency. You can also adjust the colors. You can pick a color scheme. So if you click on the marks on the left, click on color. You can also have effects as well. There's more colors here, so we can just pick, I don't know, let's pick green. And now you've got a different color. It's entirely your choice how you want to do this. Now at this point, we've only done the one, so bar chart showing the average monthly revenue per supermarket chain. We've sorted the bars from the highest, and we've to some degree formatted it so it's easier to easier to view and make analysis of, right? What I'm going to do is I'm now going to do another example, and as I mentioned before, this in Power BI you can have multiple visualizations per worksheet, but in Tableau it is slightly different. You do need to open another worksheet. So let's open another one. And let's see what we're going to do now. Let's focus on filtering and sorting. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Let's see if there's another example that I can think of. Let's do line chart revenue trends over time. At least it gives another one. Let's type this revenue trends over time. I can change the title at another time. So I've opened up another one. Okay, let's start. Let's do opening year to the dimensions, which is the columns. And as mentioned before, the column shelf represents the x-axis, which is typically used for time-based data. And since opening year is categorical variable, it ensures that each year is separated as a distinct category, as you can see here. Okay, dokie. Now we want to drag monthly revenue into rows. And cool, and there we go. We have our line chart. And again, as said before, the rows shelf represents the y-axis, which is used for numerical values. And since revenue is a measure, placing it on the y-axis allows us to plot the trend over time, as you can see here. Right, let's see. Oh yeah, as I mentioned before in the previous one, let's go to marks. And even though it has automatically done it for us, let's select it ourselves to make sure it stays as line. And why are we using a line chart here? So line charts are best for showing trends over time. A bar chart wouldn't work well here because we want to see how revenue changes continuously. The best way to think of it is a bar chart is better for comparing categories, i.e. different supermarkets, as you saw the previous example, and a line chart is better for analyzing changes over time. Right, okay. And the next step is quite interesting now. It's continuous and discrete. Now, if your chart looks compressed, right? If we click on opening year, we can select either continuous or discrete. Now you might be wondering what this is. And so discrete years ensure that only years where the stores were opened appear on the axis. So this prevents Tableau from filling in unnecessary years, making the trend much clearer to see. So for example, let's just say we're going from 1994 to 2024. And if there were no store openings in 96, 97, there's no data, but switching it to discrete will remove them years. So let's see what difference it makes. So we can see the chart here as it is. Let's go from continuous, let's go to discrete, and now you can see a difference. So 94 is being removed. And you can see this looks different to how it was before. Cool. Now let's move to better readability. So we've already got the title because I already named the page. As before, let's change this to format. Let's change it to currency standard. Yes, English, that's fine. So what else can we do to format the chart? Now we can adjust the thickness of the line. So if we click under marks, we see size, and we can have thicker lines. You can have as much thick as you want. Obviously, don't want to go too thick. We can change the color of these as we did earlier. That's a nice, lovely color. Thicker lines do stand out better. They make the trend stand out better. And formatting this just makes it in a currency just easier on the eyes, easier to read. And what do we have now? So finally, we've done the chart, which is the line chart showing how supermarket revenues change over time, over the shopping opening years, properly formatted with the currency, and it's a smooth trend line, making it easier to see the growth and decline over time. And as you can see, we changed the color, we've changed the thickness of the line, which makes things a lot better. And I will show you now. I'll leave it that for now for examples of worksheets. But if I were to show you a dashboard, so if you click on New Dashboard, and here you can see your worksheets. And obviously, if you've got several worksheets, you can add it to here, and you can add filters in as well if you want to. So if we go to, we've got floating and tiled. So let's just stick this in here. I'll take this revenue over trend. And there we go. Now we've got our dashboard. And with this dashboard, we can save this. This can be shared. Like I said, this is just a very, very basic beginning for beginners introduction to using Tableau. There's so much you can do. You can change to heat maps. There's so many more options here under show me on the right hand side. I will be over the next few weeks getting more and more hands-on with Tableau, getting more advanced, especially if it's a good learning curve for me as well. Like I said, I'm very comfortable with Power BI. That's what I've spent most of my time on. Tableau is a great tool, I must admit. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said, just a quick introduction, but there'll be more to come. Thank you.